Do you struggle with foundation paper piecing? Maybe your fabric never covers the full area and you just don't know why? Well, I've got a tip for you that you might want to try that might make this a little bit easier. My name's Clint, also known as the Boy Stitcher here on YouTube and on Instagram. And I've been working through the Catch Me Quilt by BeColourful Quilts. And most of the comments that I've been getting is that people struggle with foundation paper piecing, specifically to have all the fabric line up across all four edges, and that 1/4 inch seam allowance just always seems to give them fits, or the fabric never really covers the whole piece as it should. So let me show you what I did when I first started out that really helped me. So this is your foundation paper right here. And you can see it's got all the edges. I've already trimmed this one down. And it is a mirror image of this side right here. The issue though is when you look at these papers, it's blank on this side. And it always caused me problems when I was trying to picture it, what the mirror image was going to be, and when I folded the paper back. So this is what I did. I decided to trace the paper, the lines on the other side of the paper. So I could see exactly what my piece was going to look at when I looked at it from the finished side. So this is number 1 over here on my right. And when I turn this over, one's over here on my left. So you can see how the mirror image will work. This also creates a really great visual cue for you when you're working on fully covering your fabric to make sure that you've got a 1/4 inch seam allowance around the whole piece here. So let me show you what I do. So we're going to start with foundation point 1 here, and I already have some fabric lined up. And I'm going to take my glue, and I know exactly where to place my glue, and I also know exactly where to place my fabric. So now it's fully covered. Now that's an easy part. That one most people can get. It's when we start getting into sewing all the different seams it seems to give people. So we know we're going to foundation point number 2. That's our next goal. So I'm going to flip this over. Actually, we're going to keep it on this side. I'm going to take my add a 1/4 ruler and I'm going to flip this over, and look at that right there. All of a sudden I can see what foundation point 2 looks like. So let me go ahead and trim this one. Okay, so now I've got my edge. I know exactly what my foundation point 2 is going to look like. So when I take my fabric right here, I can make sure from the top, when I'm looking at it this way, that my fabric is going to fully cover all the edges. It just makes life a little bit easier, so you're not trying to like hold this all together and peek on the inside to see, oh, is this going to work or not, and guess. So now you can flip it over and say, okay, so my fabric goes all the way down here. It's got full coverage. I've got full 1/4 inch coverage around the whole thing. So then when you take it to the sewing machine and you line it up, you flip this paper back over, we're going to go ahead and get everything set up correctly as it should. We're going to go ahead and start our piecing. And I like to go really slow when I'm foundation paper piecing. It just helps me stay on that line really well. And I'm just sewing down that line. Now, for the BeColourful Quilts, she will tell you exactly what size of each fabric piece to cut out. And it does make life a lot easier. Sometimes they don't tell you that, and you kind of have to do a little bit of a guessing game. And so when you do that, it's easier to have your foundation or your papers there with you when you're cutting out your templates. So here we go. We just sewed down that line. right down the middle. There's foundation point 1. We just finished foundation point 2. And now, when we flip it over, you're going to see, okay, my fabric fully covers all of foundation point 2. I am in the clear there. So from there, and you also can see it from this side if you really want to. You can see, since you've drawn it out, you can see that this fully covers over there. So there I finger press it first, take my Acorn Easy Press Pin, put a little line down that, and I'm going to press it to get a nice crisp seam there. And there we go. And now we're ready for foundation point 3. And it really is the exact same process over and over. So I'm going to line up my add-a quarter ruler here, fold it back, and there we go. I can see exactly where foundation point 3 is going to go and what fabric needs to, what size fabric I need to cover it. So let me trim up my seam allowance. And then I'm going to take my piece of fabric here. And now this is an interesting one. I've been using batik, so it doesn't really matter which way is right side and which way is wrong side, because there's really no right or wrong side. This one, however, and I don't know if it'll pick up well on the camera there, but it is a white on white fabric. It's got a little bit of a design, so I don't know if you can see that, but there definitely is a right side and a wrong side to this fabric. I want to make sure the right side is facing towards the foundation papers. That makes sure that when I flip it over, the right side is facing out. So I am just lining it up, and then this one's really easy to see because there's my foundation point. I know exactly where I'm going. My fabric is fully on the outside there, and I'm ready to go. So I'm going to go sew it. And this is not something I don't think that you're going to be able to do for every single foundation paper. It does take up a little time to draw each line on the other side. I just go up to a window and kind of hold it up to a window and draw it. I would use a pencil. I'm using a pen here so you can see it a little bit better. But really, it does take up time, but you do this maybe 2 or 3 foundation papers, and all of a sudden you're going to start getting your rhythm and how it actually works. So then when you flip this over, you see I'm fully covered, I'm good, I'm in the clear, so I'm going to go ahead and press this out. Give it a nice iron there. And we know that is great. It is fully covered. I am ready to go on to foundation point 4. So from there, it's the same process. And this is what I really love about foundation paper piecing is once you get, it's a lot of prep work. It does take a little bit of time to prep everything. With cutting out all the foundation papers and cutting out your fabric and making sure they're the right sizes. And if you're drawing on it, that'll take a little bit of time. But once you get in the rhythm of it and you learn and you understand how it works, it really becomes second nature, and it becomes like you're in a rhythm, and it becomes like you don't really have to give a lot of thought to it. I like it because I can have a whole stack of fabric right here with my foundation papers. They're all lined up. I don't have to think about what fabric comes next. I'm just going to pull off the top because I've stacked them in order over here. But when I first started, it did take me a little bit of extra time. It takes some work to get used to how this works. Just like anything in life, it takes some time to learn. So here I am. I have lined it up. My foundation point 4 is right there. I know it's fully covered. I can feel it on the back there. I know it's fully covered around all 3 sides of this triangle. So I'm going to go take it and sew it. The other nice thing is on the BeColourful Quilts, on her foundation paper, she'll put arrows in the direction of sewing. I will be honest with you, I don't know how, if those have any impact on the overall finished piece. But I will say it is more of a natural way of how you go and sew your foundation papers, meaning on one side she had arrows pointing one direction, on the other side she has them pointing the other way. And let me show you what that means really quick. So you can see here these 2 seam lines had arrows pointing down that way, and then this one had arrow pointing this way. And the reason for that is because when you're working on foundation point 1 going on to foundation point 2, you're going to have it going through the sewing machine like that because your seam is going to be facing that way right there, right? And so you start here and you work around that side, but then you still have to get this foundation point over here, so you're going to be flipping your work. So you want your seam facing that side always, and that is really what these arrows help you make sure you're doing here. It's just kind of your natural, and most of us are used to having the seam allowance going that direction towards the main part of your sewing machine, towards the throat space. But this just gives you an extra little reminder that that's where it goes. Now, if I wanted to, I could have sewed it like this because I'm just going a straight line. It's not the end of the world, and I'll get the same result. So if that makes sense to you, do it that way. If you want to keep everything going the same direction, that's perfectly fine. You're going to get the same result here. But this is just, it's more of a natural thing for me at least to always have my seam allowance facing the throat of my sewing machine. So I'm going to take it over, I'm going to finger press it out. Put on some Acorn Easy Press Pin. Press it really quickly. And there we have it. We have a finished piece. Now it's going to look a little weird here because you've not trimmed up everything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it this side, this way. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to trim off all the excess. Now, when I'm doing foundation paper piecing, I like to make sure I'm giving myself plenty of seam allowance. Let me show it this way. Plenty of seam allowance gap there. So you can see this little middle spot that I have here is actually the seam allowance. That's going to be hidden when I sew all of these together. But this thin little outside line, that's the outside of my seam allowance. So I give myself just a little bit of extra room, like 1/8 of an inch. That way when I go and I true it up, I have space. The papers won't kind of go wonky on me or anything like that. So just a little trick that I've learned along the way, because I have in the past cut it right on the edge of the seam allowance. And when I go to trim up the papers, for some reason the paper for me always kind of moves and shifts around. And so this just lets me, catch them in the actual, have enough of the paper on the other side of the rotary blade when I'm trimming it up. So just going to trim it up really quick. And then this one, I'm just going to freehand that curve. Be very careful. A lot of times I use a 28mm rotary blade. I just don't have it out and handy right in front of me, so please be careful when you are cutting freehand like that and you have your fingers next to your rotary blade. I've never nicked myself because I go slow enough, but just make sure you're being extra careful. And so now I've trimmed up the seam allowance there, and there you go. And that is a perfectly pieced foundation point there. And I have no missing points. I knew exactly where I was going to go. The best part about this, though, is when you're drawing on the papers, you're just going to be ripping them out anyway. Nobody's ever going to see it. It's when you rip it out, these papers go in the trash. And so this is literally just I would say it's like training wheels for you when you're learning how to ride a bike. This allows you to see and visualize, because I am a visual learner. That's why I love YouTube. But when I first started this, I just had so many problems with, making sure that the fabric that I had matched up or fully covered the foundation point. So this was just a little thing I developed. Maybe someone else is doing it, I don't know. But this is something that just worked for me. And then once I started getting the rhythm of it, I had to do it maybe 2 or 3 times. Or if I was having a piece that I just could not figure out and I was getting frustrated with it, I would start drawing the lines on the other side of the paper just so I could see it. And that just fixed it for me really quickly. And then once I started getting used to it, I didn't need it as much anymore, because you start getting used to what size fabric you need, etc. So give it a try. And if it works for you, drop a comment. Or if you want to try it, drop a comment here. I'd love to hear from you if you have any more questions or concerns about foundation paper piecing. It really is such a fun way to piece. It takes a little bit of time to learn it, but once you learn it, it becomes really, really fun, and you can make some really cool, interesting pieces or quilts from it. So thanks for watching. I hope this tip helped you out. If it did, drop a comment. I'd love to hear back from you. Or if you have any other questions or things that give you problems with foundation paper piecing, let me know. I'd love to do a little short video to show you how I do it. And there's not, just because I do it one way does not mean that's the right way. I will just share ways that have worked for me. So if you've got questions, let me know. If this helps, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks, everybody.